Welcome, Patriots. If you would please do me a favor and let me know when you can hear my voice, that will help me understand that we're on. And I'm waiting for someone just to give me a heads up in the chat box, if you please wouldn't mind. Somebody tell me if you can hear me or not. All right. Thank you so much, Julie. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. If someone wants to tell us where you're tuning in from, that would be awesome. We can have a little bit of rapport here while we're waiting for things to build. I really do appreciate you all coming on board. And if you haven't done so yet, please make sure that you like the program. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Those are the things we need. Thank you, South Carolina. Yes, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. And Dallas, Texas. All right. Dallas is in the house. All right. We've got some exciting things to talk about tonight. We've got some things that we're going to share with you. And I think some things will make a little sense tonight when I begin to tell you about where the State of the Nation show is right now and what's happening with us and some of the things that are changing. And you will understand here in just a little bit. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes, and then we're going to kick off live. But I really do appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. All right. We'll stop that fancy music. And now we're going to go to talk a little bit about a scripture and give a little bit of biblical perspective. We're going to go to Matthew, the 4th chapter. We're going to start with verse 3. And it says, when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, this was Jesus answering back to the tempter, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up to the holy city, Jerusalem, and sitteth him on the pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge over thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up at any time thou dash thy foot against the stone. Jesus said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil taketh him up to an exceeding high place, high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, all these things I will give you, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. The things I want to talk to you about tonight, we have to be careful when opportunities are presented to us. Sometimes opportunities may seem great, but we need to take everything in perspectives. Now let's remember, Jesus was on a 40-day fast in the desert when the tempter came to him. And I'm sure he was hungry, because remember, he was all man and all God at the same time. So I'm sure that he was hungry. And it would have been easy to turn, stones into bread. But he understood that he had to go through temptation, just like us. Because remember, when Christ died for us on the cross, he had taken every sin and every temptation that we as men will take. He took to the cross with him, and he killed it on the cross. He gave us the overcomers through his death. So he allowed us to get past the temptation. And I'll explain this a little bit later on in our presentation when I talk to you about some of the things that are going on with our program. But not everything that the world gives you that is shiny and looks great is good. So I just wanted to let you understand that and put that in perspective. And we're going to move on now. We've got some exciting things to talk about. And it's been a great week. I hope each of you had a good Easter. And some of you have asked me why we have not posted a video, a presentation since last week. And here's where we're at. Right now, the State of the Nation program, we had an opportunity, and this is what I was talking about. We had an opportunity from another network to join them, and they would be our provider, and we would have a time slot, and it was kind of a great opportunity. But I don't agree with all the presenters on that network. And what I mean by that is I'm not so sure all of those presenters are. I just don't have a good, strong feeling with those presenters. So at that point, I would have had to change some of my format. I would have had to bring on some monetary information. Basically, I would have had to run commercials, these type of things, and that's not what this is about, and I don't want it to ever be about that. But at the same time, I will tell you that it looked good to me, because here's what I'm facing right now, and I'll just be totally upfront and honest with you that right now, State of the Nation has we have a licensing fee that's due, and I have to pay this fee to utilize our software. And so far, everything that we've paid to bring the show up to date, all of our cameras, our better cameras, our softwares, our microphones, our lighting, all of this things, I've come out of my own pocket with. And so now that I have a pretty big chunk of funds that I'm going to have to pay out for this software, unless I can find a different software that does the same thing. I'm really comfortable with this software. I like it. It's a good format, but it is what it is. So this opportunity looked great because I would be using their format, their software and everything, but not everything is as it looks. So I have decided that I am not going to go with this other network. I told them thank you, but no thank you. I do not want to be part of a content provider and on another network and be told what I can and cannot do, so on and so forth. I don't want to try to sell you gold and silver. That's not what I'm about. Now I do believe in the My Pillow stuff, and you guys have seen I've shared that information with you. But I'm not one of these guys who sells gold and silver and vitamins and all that stuff. That's not what I'm about. So I'm going to stick with our programming. We are looking to add content providers. I've already told you that we are looking toward having. I was actually tonight supposed to be interviewing a guest, but what happened was, because of our software problems, we've had to push that interview on to next week. Hopefully, I will have made some decisions and either decided to purchase the licensing agreement or move on. I'm just not sure yet exactly where I'm at with that, but we'll get there, and you guys will be the first to know. So that's the good thing. The other thing is I am looking to come alongside. As I told you before, we do have some content providers that help us, but I'm looking for a staff writer and another host. So I'm going to be asking some people that I believe in around me if they would consider possibly coming on as a co-host or another host with State of the Nation, allowing you to have another viewpoint, another angle, and that coupled with all of our content, I think that would help. And we've got some other things lined up. I shared with you before. I talked to you last week about the people we've already lined up to have. We have a historian. My friend, I call him the Professor, James. I have him. I have another gentleman that I've become a very good friend with, and he's the one who wrote about the cabal, and he did this 40 years ago, and he has some insight to things. And another young man that the man that I was supposed to interview tonight. He has a very successful podcast, and he actually interviewed myself on his podcast, and we're going to talk about podcasting and so on and so forth. And then I have another lady that's a wholeness person who we talked about vaccines last week, and her children and her grandchildren are non-vaccinated, and we're going to ask her about her story and how things went, as a mom and a grandmother of non-vaccinated children in public settings like school, etc. And it's a very good, story that she has to share with us. And, it might give you some ideas to think about. Anyway, okay, with all that being said, we got all that out of the way. Let's get right to the news. According to the CDC, nearly 1 million people, or 100 million people, or about 30% of the population, has received at least one of the COVID vaccine 19 shots. So a person will be considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after receiving the last required vaccine shot. Now, what the CDC able to travel without impedance. So you would be able to add, I'm so sorry, I did not silence my phone, and I apologize. I'm on the air. So when you are fully vaccinated, according to the CDC, you may travel and you can enjoy things again. Well, I'm not so sure that's the answer. The answer is not to force people to, to travel, that they have to get a vaccination. Now, previously, the agency had cautioned against unnecessary travel, even for vaccinated people, but noted it would be, it would be better if you were going to travel if you were vaccinated. So, there's studies going, and here's what I want to tell you. Okay, first off, the mark of the beast is the vaccine. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is the mark of the beast becomes a lot more easily put in the mind of people when you begin to do these mandatory vaccinations and these mandatory passports and these things. It makes it a lot easier to bring on a mark, or something that will need to be presented to buy or sell or travel or move around. So, but I do not believe that this vaccination is the mark of the beast. Now, the flip side of this, this vaccine, it came around awful quick. And as I told you, we are writing a research paper here at State of the Nation, and we've come on to some things where we are waiting for some answers back from some individuals we reached out to with questions on this research. And because when we publish this, remember, this is not just going to our page. It's actually sent out to a group of persons. And, they have the ability to publish it, and, I'm sure that's going to bring a lot of attention, good or bad, indifferent what. So we want to make sure we've crossed all our, T's and dotted all our I's, and we've done everything we're supposed to do correctly. And what we want to do is bring a good product to market and let people see. So that's honestly where we're at with that. So all that being, the vaccine came awful quick. I do have an opinion on why, and I will share that in my research paper. And when we talk about it on the show, I'm actually going to try to have someone interview me about it. It's kind of hard to interview myself, so I'm going to have someone interview me about this research paper so I can kind of explain it, and we'll move forward with that. Okay, moving on. the next thing we're going to talk about is, let's see here. Iran has agreed to enter into talks again with the United States. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. And I'm sure everyone here remembers the pallets of cash that was dropped on the tarmac from the Obama administration, and how that at that point, it was suddenly a good thing for us to get in an agreement with the nuclear agreement, so that Iran would not get a nuclear weapon, so on and so forth. Basically, we paid them to sign a piece of paper to say they were going to be good and follow directions, even though they haven't followed one of them, and they didn't follow any of them. They continued to enrich uranium, but we paid them to sign a piece of paper to make someone else look like they had actually done something great to achieve peace. And I'll let you figure out who the players are in that. But the thing we need to think about here is, it appears that now Biden has stepped right back into that same realm of thinking, that we will pay Iran to act like they're doing the good, doing the right things. And it's just ludicrous. And the sad thing is there's people out there, there's actually citizens in the United States who they honestly think that Iran is going to play by the rules. They haven't played by the rules, folks, ever. Ever. In my whole lifetime, I've watched Iran stick their finger in the eye of everyone that they've ever became close to. And just do your history and look at it. So, for us to even think that, without, a strong military, without a strong check and balance, without us being right there to watch them, that they're going to try to do the right thing. They're never going to do it. Never going to do it. And what they do is they hire proxies. They hire individuals to do their bidding. And, the bottom line to all of it ends up at the end of the day that they did not come good. So that's the other issue with this. And so we need to hold the Biden administration accountable. If something comes out of this, if we enter back into this agreement with them, there's a problem, because there's no. So that being said, our next topic is on the it's on the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Now, let's talk about this for 1 second. Last time I checked, it's April. So we're already moving this from a state, and they're trying to blame it on because that state is trying to clean up their voter rolls and trying to do the right thing according to the Constitution and hold people accountable for their votes. All right? That's really what's going on. They're trying to hold people accountable for their votes. Now, all that being said, we as individuals we can see through the minutia. We can see through the stuff. We have former President Barack Hussein Obama telling Major League Baseball, "Good job leaving Atlanta. Good job." Problem, folks. Do you know who's really hurt with the All-Star game leaving Georgia? It's the people of color and the businesses of color that actually are there in Georgia. Most of your are in Atlanta because that's where most of the businesses of color are. So they're trying to play politics, and Major League Baseball should not even be involved in politics. When sports become involved in politics, you have what happened to the NFL. The NFL drastically, they lost 60% of their market share. They lost billions of dollars, and then they realized, you know what? We made a bonehead mistake. And as you've seen, and more announcements to where they're retracting a lot of those things. They let the woke people talk them into doing before they realized that the minority, and I mean a very small minority of people, agree with that. A lot of that craziness. Someone wants to go to a football game to watch a football game. You don't want to go to a football game to watch someone kneel or someone hold their arm up or someone make a statement or someone dance half nude. That's not why you go to a football game or a baseball game. It's not what it's about. And so the problem that these sporting events are having is, they're now we have the Democratic Party that has interjected politics into the Major League Baseball scene, just like it did to the the NFL and the NBA. The NBA is gone forever. I'm not so sure the NBA can ever return. The NBA is honestly gone. Mark Cuban, I used to think he was a halfway decent fella. Mark Cuban, his hatred for Trump was such in a way that he he led the charge, and he's basically lost billions of dollars. And, he thinks he accomplished something. He didn't. All he did is lose money, and he made the NBA look silly. So, anyway, we have 4 presidents, Barack Hussein Obama and former President Donald Trump, weigh in on this. Of course, one of them is congratulating the league, and the other one is saying, "Are you guys nuts? Did you not see what happened to the NFL and NBA? Why would you do something like this?" Now, here's the sad part. So you took a Major League Baseball game that draws millions of dollars. You took it from an ethnic-based white state of Colorado. And yet you call yourself, doing something right. It's crazy. It don't make sense. And there's something else behind this, folks. Not sure what's going on, but there's something else behind this that we're not seeing. I do think, here's part of the problem. I think Georgia is getting ready to get an awakening. From what I'm hearing, and I can't share everything with you right now, but from what I'm hearing, I think at the end of the day, when all the forensic counts and all of this is done, America is going to be flipped on its ear. And so they don't want anything, especially a Major League Baseball game that's viewed all over the world, like the All-Star game. They don't want it. They don't want anyone to associate that with the Georgia debacle, because it's going to come out, folks, that Georgia had massive fraud in their election. It's going to come out. And when it comes out, every time you think of Georgia, you're going to think of fraud. But that's just the beginning. A judge come out and say that, I believe it's Pennsylvania, has to take 20,000 dead people off of their voting rolls. It's sad when a judge has to slam a gavel down and say, remove dead people from your rolls. 9,000 of those 20,000 dead people voted in the last election. And they wasn't alive before the election. Let that sink in. But yet, the Democratic Party and the mainstream media has hid this story from you. And they want you to think, oh, nothing happened. And then you have Maricopa County that they're getting ready to go through their audits. They're going to have a forensic audit. Friends, Arizona is going to find major fraud. It's going to happen. And so as these states begin to show the fraud, now that we're going to wake up one day and, unless a miracle happens, I don't know. I don't think they're going to say, oh, Biden camp cheated with XYZ. This is the deal. And Donald Trump was actually the winner. No, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is Joe Biden is going to go down as the president with an asterisk by his name. And it's going to be because of election fraud, he became the 46th president of the United States. I want that to sink in. That's what's going to happen. And now that I stand back and I look at this holistically and I see what's been going on and I can see what's happening, I think, my friends, this may have been the plan all along, because I believe that some of the people knew they were going to cheating, that it would just look like they're sore losers. So now the American people are going to see the fraud for what it is. Now, you're going to have maybe 30% that's never going to accept the fraud. They're going to claim whatever. Watch my page. There's a couple of my friends out of the 5,000 friends that I have and the 7,100 followers we have on State of the Nation. What you're going to find is I have about 3 that are just die-hard Democrats. It's blue, it's going to be purple, okay? And that's just the way they are, because they have drunk the Kool-Aid. And, they call themselves, enlightened, whatever. But, so it's unfortunate. Some of you have asked me, why do you let them stay on your page? Why don't you bounce them off? Well, I've told you before, they actually are my friends, believe it or not. And the other part is, I want you to see how some of the people in America actually think and how they can try to bring that thought process and they try to rationalize that thought process. And, that's sad. Okay, moving on. I beat a dead. I don't like doing that. Somebody talk to me on the chat. Make sure you can still hear me. Make sure you still got me, okay? All right, so what we have now is we have 22 states have joined the lawsuit that is urging the federal court to rule against California's large capacity magazine ban. Now, what does that mean? Here's the thing, guys. A coalition of 22 states led by Republican attorney generals has called on the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to rule against California's attempt to ban gun magazines that hold more than 10 bullets. Pardon me. Wow. That hold more than 10 bullets. California politicians, happy Thursday, Liz. California politicians are at it again. They are convinced that their agendas should override the constitutional rights of the citizens of the United States. These attempts to undermine the Second Amendment or any of our civil rights and vigorous opposition. All right, let's talk about this for a second. You're right. You don't need 10 to kill a deer. I get that. Okay. But the other thing I get is I like to have 10 bullets to practice with. I like to have 30 bullets to practice with. It's nice to be able to pull the trigger 30 times and get 30 shots without having to reload. Okay. That's nice. Now, here's the other part of it. There's a reason that the Second Amendment was there. Now, the Democrats would want you to think that the Second Amendment is put there so that you can have a turkey gun to go shoot for your food. You know, they think you should have a musket so you can go shoot for food. And as Administrator Biden has said, oh yeah, I have a shotgun, and we have a shotgun, and I trained Jill, Dr. Biden. By the way, she's only a doctor because her doctor degree is from the university that Biden is on the board with, and basically she got, a degree, a doctorate degree. She's not a medical doctor. She got a doctorate degree from that college where the Biden library is. So you guys figure it out. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out what's going on there. And I can't believe you had Democrats that were calling on her to be the Surgeon General. Think about that. She's not a doctor of medicine, but because they insist on calling her Dr. Biden, some people got it in their heads that she's actually a medical doctor. Anyway, moving on. She's a doctor of education. Not putting down education. Education's great. I know very good people with doctors of education. That's not the problem. The problem is, if you check into it, what you're going to find is people have said that she basically just got the degree because of her husband, which that's right alongside a lot of stuff the Bidens have done, along with the Clintons, etc. Okay, so the Democratic Party would want you to think that the Second Amendment talks about so you can go have a gun to go hunt your food with. And now we have grocery stores and we don't have to go hunt our own food. So it's not necessary for everybody to have a gun. No, that's not true. The Second Amendment is there so that we can keep our government in check. What does that mean? What that means is if you as a citizen have a right to bear arms, the government thinks twice before it becomes tyrannical. Anytime a government wants to take away your guns, I want you to think about what happened to the Jews. I want you to think about what happened when they disarmed the Jews in Germany. You know the rest of the story. After the arms, it comes boxcars. After the boxcars, it becomes ovens. So on, so on, and so on. So, if you've got more than 10 rounds in your gun, that puts you on the same page with the guns, or almost the same, with the guns that your military may have. So it could almost be a tit for tat. Almost, not quite. So think about that. That's what it's about. All right, moving on. Biden and his promises. All right, guys. We're going to talk about Biden. And he made promises. You guys remember his promises that if you made under $400,000 a year, you would not be bothered by his tax plan. You guys remember that? If you made $400,000 a year, you won't be bothered by his tax plan. Well, guess what? He just announced this week that that's now lowered to $200,000 a year, because if you make $200,000 a year, you can pay a little bit more taxes. You guys get where we're going here? What's it going to be next week? If you make $100,000, who is it that can make a decision like that arbitrarily and say, you make too much money, we're going to tax you more? Remember, under our current tax that President Trump set forth, he actually gave us a tax cut, still 25% of the population pays 85% of the taxes. Let that sink in. 25% of the population pays 85% of the taxes. And now he wants to up the tax threshold and pay even more. They want to go up once again from a 21% corporate rate to a 29% corporate rate, which is actually going to equal out to more like a 33% when you look at everything and put it in perspective. And a 21 actually equates out to like a 29, 28, 29 when you put it on paper and figure it out. So, do you see what we're doing here? And he says, that Donald Trump was evil when he cut the taxes. Well, that's what brought all the business back to America. And while we're talking about that, let's talk about oil. Let's talk about this. Now, I'm going to give you guys a quick down and dirty education on the dollar. Okay? Now, if you go check back in the day, the dollar used to be measured by a gold and silver standard. We used to have silver certificates. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that. Some of you might not be old enough to remember that. They're from the 60s. It's not that I remember it, but I remember I actually collected a couple of them before, and I got them somewhere in my stuff. I don't know where. But it says in their silver certificate, and it says $1 silver certificate. If you flip it over, it says this is good for $1 worth of silver. So there was a point where you could actually take that to the bank, or take that to the post office, or take it to wherever they told you could take it, and you could get $1 worth of silver bullion. Now, when this first came out, it was about an ounce of silver. So it was about a dollar an ounce is about, that's kind of way back there. All right. So what happened is, as we begin to be on the gold standard, Nixon realized that as they begin printing more money overseas, and we was doing the big rebuild after World War II in Europe, they printed more cash, more paper money. And when they printed more paper money, that created inflation against the amount of gold and silver we had that was being held in our coffers. Now, remember, on the note, it said it's good for that. So then you had these foreign countries that had U.S. currency, because U.S. currency was the currency to have, because it actually had a value. And France was the first one to do it. France, but it wasn't the only one to do it. France began cashing in their U.S. dollars, getting our gold, taking our gold overseas, and then presenting their own currency against the gold that they pulled out of our coffers. Now, Guys, guess what? There's only so much gold. Gold's not a renewable. Now, we can still mine and get gold, but believe it or not, gold, a lot of your gold and silver now that's already in the ground that we know where it's at, a lot of it's already bought. A lot of people have already bought plots of land with a presumed amount of gold in it. All right? It's already there. So imagine that. So what happened is you had Nixon in the 1970s decide to move us from the gold standard to a fiat petrodollar. That's where we're at right now. We're at what's called a fiat petrodollar. Now, we've talked about this before. The petro fiat dollar, it's a currency that's based on our our amount of oil in the world, and it basically goes on how much oil, the futures of oil, how much oil is kept in reserves, how much oil is being pumped and processed, etc. Now, believe it or not, oil is actually a renewable, but it's not a renewable like wind energy, but it is actually a renewable, and that's a topic for another day. But so we have oil, petrodollar, and what that means is we can use that dollar, that petrodollar, to levy it against currency all over the world. And so that, once again, gives the United States the upper hand with the petrodollar. Now, what Donald Trump did when he made America, he made us independent of all the other oil sources. He kind of upset the cabal. He upset the world leaders because he drove, when Donald Trump took office, oil was probably between $70 and $80 a barrel. You realize when he left office, oil was down to $28 a barrel. Think about that. So when Biden came in, right now, barrel, I think oil is around $56 a barrel. So it's almost, doubled since Biden's been in office. But here's what Biden's done. Biden has made the Rockefellers, the Standard Oil people, the ones who own the oil and own the oil in the ground overseas, and there's a group of families that own most of that money. And so when he made America, close the pipeline, and then he closed the drilling agreements, and he shut down the oil leases on federal land. He did all that. He did two things. What he did was he drove the price of oil up, making America have to buy oil from other nations. And number two, he leveraged the oil in the ground on federal property so that they could print more money against the oil reserve in the ground. Where do you think these trillions of dollars is being, how can I say this? Where do you think these billions of dollars, the futures of this $1 billion is being held? It's on these federal lands, and they're saying, oh, well, we've got this much XYZ oil in these federal lands that we can get this money from at a future date. And that is the little secret where, he's putting the Federal Reserve Bank. But here's the deal. When we say Federal Reserve Bank, The Federal Reserve Bank is no more federal than Federal Express is, okay? It's got nothing to do with being a federal identity because the Federal Reserve Bank is a private identity. It's owned by a group of people, not the federal government. And in fact, all the Federal Reserve Bank does is print money. Does it print money against gold? No, it doesn't. But here's the sad part. All it does is print money and give it to nations out there. And then it says, okay, we printed you this amount of money. You now owe us interest of this XYZ amount. And most of the time, the payment that the countries are paying is only interest, and they never end up paying it off. And so they get deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. It's kind of like that credit card that you have that has a 21% or 28% or 29% interest rate. And, you never pay the dude off. You never end up paying that off. So that's what you're watching, and you're seeing behind the scenes how they're paying for all of their social programs, how they are getting this through the bank, and how they're telling Congress, well, we've got this much oil in reserve, we're not using it, and so we can XYZ it with this much, and that federal land is worth this much money, we can leverage it. Now, here's where the danger is. Listen to me. If we sell this if we sell this to another nation, we have an opportunity to lose our property if we fault on a loan. Let's just make a thing. Let's say that China purchases a $5 billion bank loan, and they float that loan, and they use that loan, and they say, okay, we want collateral for this loan, and it's Yosemite National Park. And so we say, okay, we'll you give us $5 billion, and we'll write you a loan on this many acres of Yosemite National Park for XYZ amount of years. That's what you're honestly looking at here, guys. And then this much oil reserve in it. It may have this much whatever attached to it, its value, XY. Okay, so you see how they play with this. Now, I'm going to tell you guys that there's a couple more things we'll talk about toward the end of the program, and we'll wrap up here pretty soon. But a couple more things we're going to talk about, and that is what China is doing to the United States. Let me look here and see what my agenda is here. I got some things going on the agenda. I didn't get to everything. I kind of chased a couple rabbits. I'm sorry about that. Let's see here. It's coming. It's coming up here. Couple things that I want you guys to keep in mind, okay? This is important. I don't know if you're keeping up with the George Floyd trial. But here's the problem. The prosecution is not making their case against this police officer. The prosecution, in fact, has been putting out a horrible case against this police officer. Now, I'm not going to say the police officer's guilty or not. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I haven't seen the facts. But the facts that I've seen them give out and portray in no way show that he woke up that morning and knew he was going to murder George Floyd. So that throws first-degree murder off the table. Secondly, they've even admitted that George Floyd had a problem in the past with police officers and that he was a danger to police officers in the past, right? So when you get a radio, I mean, they have this officer on tape from his body cam that says, this is a big guy. I'm afraid that, he'll do something. And they knew that he had drugs in his system. Remember, they testified in this hearing that he had overdosed just a month before, or 3 weeks before. He had overdosed. And when the autopsy was given, the only autopsy that was given, the autopsy results show that fentanyl in his body that he needed to kill himself. The other thing he had was a 3/4 blockage in his heart. Now I want you to think about that. You've got a guy who's got a 3/4 blockage of heart, taking fentanyl, right? High on drugs. Gets excited because he tried to pass a counterfeit bill, gets caught, right? The police come. His blood starts flowing. He starts getting animated. He gets put down. They say that his knee was on his neck. Well, guess what? They've also proved that his knee was on the middle of his back. They've also proved that the way that his knee was, it is an authorized hold, as much as they want to try to say it wasn't. So these are the problems here. And I'm not here quarterbacking this. I'm just telling you what the defense has failed. The prosecutor has failed to do. The prosecutor has failed to give proof that this officer woke up that morning and said, I'm going to kill this guy. So, what are we thinking about what's going to happen? Guys, I have a feeling Georgia's getting ready to burn. But not only Georgia, Minneapolis is going to burn. Portland's going to burn. LA is going to burn. Coming to a city near you, you're going to see it happen again. If this officer gets anything less than a life sentence, people are going to try to burn the place down. And it's the media's fault, because the media has lied. The media has tried this case in public without knowing the facts, without caring about the facts, without telling the truth. The media has tried to push the narrative, just like the Joe Biden win in Georgia, the George Biden win in Maricopa County, the George Biden win of presidents, and it's being shown that he did not win. But the media put this out there. Okay? So we have to be aware of what's getting ready to happen, and I'm cautioning you. I'm cautioning you, right? Unless something really changes in the next day or so, I think there's reasonable doubt. All it takes is 1 out of 12 to have reasonable doubt. One out of 12 to have reasonable doubt. So we need to be ready for that. Understand, okay? That's coming. And if we're not careful, this may, be the next summer of, rioting, XYZ, so forth, and we need to pray about it. Let's see. There's so much more I have to talk about, but I just want to bring you guys up to speed on what's going on in Texas. China owns several 100,000 acres right against the border down in Texas. And it's a wind farm. Now, the federal government has been flying helicopters and certain types of planes over this area, observing what's going on. Something's happening there in this several 100,000 acres of land besides putting up wind farms. And I don't know what's going on. I don't think any of us know what's going on. But the government's watching it, whatever it is. Another thing, China has bought several large food farms, corporate farms, throughout the Midwest and throughout Oklahoma. And I think some of you know they've bought, some meat packing facilities. So there's some things going on with China and the United States. China is investing heavily within the United States. I'm not sure exactly why we're letting them do this. That's like, letting your worst nightmare move in next to you, but I don't know. So keep your eyes on that, folks. Keep your eyes on that. I'm going to be bringing more information to you about some of the changes to State of the Nation. Like I said before, we have to make some decisions on if we're going to pay the licensing agreement for the software, or if we're going to change our format up. We are not going to join another media format. We've made that conscious decision now. So we will not be joining another group of people. And like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it's because I kind of like that we can do what we want to do here. And two, we're in charge of the content. If we go to another format with another group of presenters or another group of podcasters and broadcasters, I don't agree with all of them that are in that network to join. So, and I'm not someone who's going to be trying to sell you gold or silver or medicines or all this other stuff. That's just not what I'm about. But I do have to come up with several $100, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure something out. But I'll keep you abreast of it. So you might not get a video from us for a week or so. But we're looking for more content providers. I am looking for another co-host for State of the Nation. Just to kind of help with the heavy lifting, so on and so forth. And we are looking for some staff writers to help us. I think you guys have seen some of the editorials we've put out there. We try to upright and truthful with our writing. I don't know if you all seen our Joe Biden, our Hunter Biden op-ed that we did. That actually was shared on another network, and it got good reviews, so that's good. And I don't care. All the content we have is shareable. Please push it out there and share it. You have my permission to do whatever you need with our content. You have our permission, so you don't have to ask me if you can share it. And just share it and know that everything that we produce, and we try to double check it and so on and so forth. So we're not going to put something out there that we know is lies. We're not going to gaslight you. We're not just going to do something to to create a story and then say, oh, we're sorry. We don't want to do that. That's not who we are. And that's exactly why I don't want to join another group, because some of the individuals on that other group have done exactly that. So anyway, all right. We've come to the point where we're going to pray. We're going to pray for our nation. I'm going to pray for you, the people of state of the nation. Also, remember, please make sure that if you have not yet, give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. We need those thumbs up. Is declined because our message isn't getting out there. And I have people contact me and say, hey, have you stopped doing your show? I'm like, no, I haven't. And they say, for some reason, you're not coming through again. And that's because of the social media platform. They're squashing us down. We get it. We understand. So share it out there as much as you can, because that's what we need to do, is to share it with other people. But let's go before the throne now. Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity to worship you in spirit and in truth. God, we would ask that you would reach down, Lord. You see those in leadership positions over us. You see Washington, God. I would ask you give them wisdom, guidance, and direction in everything that they do, God. If there's someone in Washington that would have a nefarious plan for our nation, God, I ask you bind it, God, and I ask you send confusion into their camp, Lord, and you let them be exposed for the things and the evil that they are. God, I would ask that you give, Lord Jesus, our leaders the wisdom, Lord, and reveal truth unto them. Let them be charged. God, let our nation grow. Let our nation become that light upon a hill. And Lord, we ask right now that you protect each and every one that is watching this, God. Protect their families. Keep them safe, Lord. Keep those that have sickness in their bodies right now, Lord. Let them recover. And we give you the glory. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Patriots, he is risen. God is alive and well. Remember, your hope is in Jesus, and always keep your powder dry. Bye-bye now.